This story is mostly about a pair of young ravens that I first saw on June 1st of 2021. I've always been impressed with ravens, their intelligence, their curiosity, and the different sounds they make, especially when communicating with family members. This takes place in the Verdugo Mountains, about 8 miles north of downtown Los Angeles. This is Burbank, California, and behind it you can see this mountain range, which consists of more wildlife than you can possibly imagine, especially in the valleys and forested areas. Expensive homes can be found in the foothills of these mountains, and the wildlife trickles down into the neighborhoods. Deer will come to feed on hedges and lawns, and coyotes roam the neighborhoods looking for a quick, easy meal.
What are you doing, Mr. Coyote? Why are you hanging out in this residential neighborhood?
You can also find rabbits, squirrels, crows, and many other types of wildlife. But if you go further into these mountains, away from these homes, you can see even more wildlife, including rare species like bobcats and cougars. But the wildlife that I see the most are mockingbirds, scrub jays, woodpeckers, quail, hummingbirds, house finch, lizards, more lizards, skinks, California thrashers, blue heron, Cooper's hawks, which tend to feed on smaller birds, kestrels, red-tailed hawks, and of course, these big, beautiful ravens. One of these ravens in particular I called Pizza, because it would often eat pizza crust. He was very animated and interesting to watch. He liked to find water sources to wet down his pizza crust, or in this case, a bagel. This leads us full circle to the story of these baby ravens that I first saw way up on the top of this power structure. When I first noticed them at the beginning of June, they were really small, but they grew to be nearly the size of their parents within a couple of weeks. In this picture you can see the size difference of an adult down below compared to the baby with its wings outstretched near the top. They were very affectionate with their parents during this time, and they continued to grow rapidly with each passing day. This was the larger of the two. The smaller one was curious and would let me get closer to it compared to its sibling or its parents. I called it Boo because it liked to play peekaboo. During the month of June, the parents and the babies were inseparable. To show you how protective the parents are, here is one at rest, and then right after it saw me. You can see that I have ruffled its feathers by getting too close. And here it is flying away. During this time, the babies would take short flights. They would go to nearby trees and look around, but always return back to their parents. I wondered about the safety of these baby ravens. I wondered if they had any natural predators. I know mockingbirds don't like ravens, and they'll fly around them to try to get them to leave their territory, but they don't really pose any threat. But then I wondered about red-tailed hawks. Are ravens on their menu? At the same time in June, there was a mated pair of red-tailed hawks that also had babies. They had 3 of them. And these babies would cry for food constantly. I wondered how they would react with the baby ravens if they saw them. And what I noticed is that the ravens would scold them and attack whenever they would come into their area. The parents would lead these attacks, but it didn't take long at all for the babies to also join in. This happened day after day. They would even attack the hawks when they were carrying a meal. Now, unfortunately, this is just iPhone footage. You can see the larger of the two babies attacking one of the young hawks. And after a short time, Boo comes in to join in the attack. And then there were other days where it looks like they were just flying around with the hawks. Once in a while, the hawk would dip down like it was going to make an attack, but the raven would always maneuver out of its way. But in the end, I never saw anything more than this aerial play, or the ravens occasionally attacking the hawks. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, baby ravens grew exponentially. They became larger and larger. They were more curious and would explore farther away from their parents. In this picture, Boo is holding on to this piece of metal and leaning out completely horizontally. It seems like they would do things like this just for fun. As days pass, they keep getting bigger, and they keep exploring more and more. And this is when I noticed the parents, particularly the mother, teach the babies how to find food on their own. The babies didn't really like this because they were used to their mother feeding them. So they were very reluctant, and this process took a while. Here you can see the babies on the left side crying for food, but notice what the mother does. She makes a sound as though to say, "Watch me," and then she shows them that they can look for their own food. Maybe the bark is edible. Maybe they can find grubs under the bark. But the babies aren't having it. They're crying because they want food delivered right into their mouths. She stays with them for a while and then leaves them on their own. And they kind of clumsily jump around from branch to branch. Should we find food? Now let's just play. Here's another example of their parent finding food on the side of this hill. The baby can clearly see what's going on, but will it learn? I watched this training go on for 2.5 weeks. Babies would scream for food, mom would find food, and the babies would actively chase their mother down and demand that she give them food from her mouth. Everything's better now. Here we go again. Mom, I don't want to work for food. I want you to feed me. But then the babies started to come around. They would copy their mother and start to look for food. Here are both babies with their mom. Here they are greeting each other. And here they are following her around, learning from her behavior. Here's another example. Baby cries for food. Mom ignores. Baby starts to look around like it was taught. And before you know it, look at this. I found something to eat. Shortly after this, something amazing happened. The babies started searching for food on their own. They took their mother's training and went off and found their own food. We are now about 6 weeks into this journey. I started noticing that one of the babies would fly off and stay away for hours while the other one stayed with her parents, and vice versa. These trips away from their parents started lasting longer and longer until finally, 6 weeks from the time that I saw them on that power structure, they were now mostly out on their own. I would see them once in a while flying around, but only occasionally would I see them with their parents. They became independent within a very short time. I was really impressed with the outstanding job these parents did in raising their babies, teaching them how to avoid danger, teaching them how to find food on their own, and teaching them how to communicate. I wonder how many babies these parents raised, and how many more will they raise in the future. But most of all, I'm curious as to what these babies are going to do with their lives. I hope they stay safe and someday have babies of their own. These are the last images I caught of the babies before they left their parents. This is the last picture I got of Boo before it flew away to live life on its own. I think it's looking at me as if to say, "You're kind of weird, dude, watching us all the time, but I found you kind of interesting." I'll be sure to come back next year to check on these parents to see if they have a new batch of babies. And hopefully I can watch them go through this process again, because it was very endearing and eye-opening. See you next time, Ravens. Stay safe out there.